Good morning. Okay, so we've got a few minutes before we get started. So here's what I'd like you to do while we're waiting on everybody else. So first, my name's Raj Basu. I am the faculty member on this trip, and we're going to have a couple of my other colleagues show up. But while you're waiting, if you don't already have this app, I'd like you to download WhatsApp. For those of you who don't have it, W-H-A-T-S, like in WhatsApp, but WhatsApp on your phone while you're waiting, because that's going to be our primary means of communication. And if you are a parent, unfortunately not going on this trip, you should also download it because it's the easiest way for you to stay connected to your child and keep tabs on him or her while they're in Barcelona. How are you doing? Good. How are you?
I just did Whataburger app. Pretty sure they're not going to find her there. Yeah. Well, they might. That's funny. Yes, but priority. Wow. Here's another one. I like that.
Good.
That's pretty neat. Yeah, sure. Kylie. Molly. What's that? What? Just do it for me. You should look at WhatsApp for iPhone. No, this is an Apple. The App Store. No, she goes in the same. That one. Mom. The first one was Whataburger app. It's not Whataburger app. It's WhatsApp.
Morning. Okay, so has everybody downloaded WhatsApp? So here's what I want you to do next. If you have already downloaded WhatsApp, we're going to give you a packet, and we're going to go through what we're going to do for the class, and then we're going to talk about how to get ready for the trip and how to be safe there, all kinds of things. So everybody who's a parent and concerned, don't be. We've done this a lot. So here's what I want you to do. If you've already downloaded, send me a text through WhatsApp. My number is 918-605-2277. And just send me your name, because I'm going to add you to my address book when you do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add you to a chat room called Barcelona 2019 or Barcelona Class 2019. 918-605-2277. And so go to WhatsApp and then send me that text and just your name. All you have to do is send me your name, and I'm going to add you to yeah, 918-605-2277.
How'd you get his picture? Just have This is his name, Mom. His name is Mom.
Just send me your name. I know exactly, because it's coming up right now, so I know exactly.
Oh, she's
So if you happen to have your picture added to your personal information, that's obviously easier than for me to know who you are.
Here I am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about Barcelona. I know you're scheduled for 2 hours, but I promise you it's like a very fast 2 hours. So we're waiting on maybe a couple more people, laggards coming by. So while we're waiting, here's what I want you to do. I want you to stand up, and I want you to go introduce yourselves to somebody you do not know, like a face you have never seen before today, okay? So one other person at least. It can be more than one. So I want you to go say hello to somebody you do not know.
Hey, Todd Binkley. Nice to meet you.
I'm Marissa. Hi. Nice to meet you. I'm Kelly.
Not just one, more than one, but at least one.
No, I know. That's good, yes. Hi, I'm Paige.
Nice to meet you, Paige.
Thank you.
Okay, so now, tell me your name.
Tyler Burke.
Tyler. Tyler, tell me the names of the two people you introduced yourself to.
Gosh, please.
Wait, you just talked to them.
I know, but
Okay,
my biggest flaw.
you don't listen?
Not bad with me.
Okay, what's his name? You just said hello to him and he told you your name. Okay, what's his name? Okay, so he's just as bad as you.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me your name again.
Tyler.
What's his name? Because you shook hands with him too.
Austin, right?
Dawson.
You introduced yourself to him, right? What's his name? That's Tyler. Sitting next to you.
It's early in the morning.
Okay, what's your name? BJ? But your real name is something else, right? Okay, so that's how okay. What's his name? Noah, Austin, it's the same English language alphabet, yeah. Who did you introduce yourself to? What's her name? Kendall. Kendall? What's her name? Okay. Who did you introduce yourself to? What's her name?
Barry.
Marcy. That's Kevin.
Okay.
I like
Who did you introduce yourself to? What's his name? What's his name?
Taylor.
Taylor, is that right?
Tyler.
Tyler, okay. Who did you introduce yourself to?
Morgan and Grace.
All right. See, the first person to get 2 extra points so far in class. All right. Who did you introduce yourself to? Yeah?
Him.
What's his name?
Caleb.
What's your name?
My name's Grace.
Who did you introduce yourself to?
It's Jordan. I'm Jordan and Trees.
Okay. Who else knows the name of somebody else here that they did not know before? Who did you introduce? Tell me your name. Who did you introduce
My
to?
name's Kylie, and I met Alex and Jordan.
Okay. All right. Very nice.
My name is Molly and I met Emma and Rachel.
Okay. Back row. Start with Amanda. Who did you?
I met Sam.
Sam, okay. Sam, who did you meet?
Taylor.
Okay. You're Kylie as
She
well?
lost her voice. She met Kylie.
Okay. Kylie, you just met Kylie just to keep it safe? Tell me your name.
Jordan. I met Kylie and Taylor.
Okay. All right.
I met Emma and Molly.
Okay, who met you? Molly? What's her name?
Rachel.
Okay. All right. Tell me your name.
Robert, and I met Kendall and Gabriella.
You're Gabriella?
Yes.
Okay, Gabriella, you look just like your mom. I mean, assuming that's your mom, right? Okay. All right. So let me start by saying you are going to have the greatest time of your life. You really will. For if you know somebody who's been on this program before, they've already told you this. So let's talk. First, we're going to talk about the class. But before we do that, I want to introduce two other people. I don't know how many of you know Dr. Jose Sagarnaga. Dr. Sagarnaga, if you will raise your hands. So Dr. Sagarnaga is the head of study abroad programs for the Spear School of Business. He is also a professor in the management department. His office is right over here. He himself takes students to, this year he took them to Iceland and to Mexico. Okay, so he's originally from Mexico, so he took students to both those places. And then also in the back, all right, sweetie, you got to get up. My wife, Rebecca Tennis, who also comes to the program with us. And this is her 9th time to Barcelona. Is that right? We've been to 8 times to Barcelona. This is her 9th year in Barcelona. This is my 12th time to Barcelona. One of the things you'll find is because we have been there, and we really, truly treat it like an entire family event. In addition to the two of us, we're going to have 2 advisors on this program. Katie Norris, she's doing something, but she'll be here very shortly. Any of you have Katie Norris as your advisor? Okay. Sam, you have Katie Norris. Okay. So Katie Norris is in the Spears Advising in the Eastern Center. So she's going to be on the program with us. And then Beverly Morris, who is also an advisor, will also be here. She's not here today. She came to the session last week. So, but there are 2 other people, and my wife, Rebecca, and I. And we really treat it as a family event. You will have a lot of fun. You're going to get to know each other very well. You'll get to know us very well. It'll be great. So let's talk a little bit about the class and the class expectations. So while you will have a great time, the first thing you got to remember is this is a class, right? What that means is there are class rules, there are class expectations, there are things you have to do outside all the fun you're going to have. So the first thing is this is a class on the European Union. And let me talk about what the European Union is. The European Union is the world's largest trading bloc. Approximately 500 million people live in the European Union. 28 countries make up the European Union. It appears there will be 27 countries because the United Kingdom is trying to exit the European Union, even though they don't have a plan yet on how that'll happen. But it will not happen before we leave. Right now, the exit date is supposedly October 31st of this year. So there are 28 countries in the European Union. Approximately 500 million people make up the European Union. It is the world's largest trading bloc, and here's why it was created. So if you look at the history of Europe, from now till the point when we first had tribes that were not even civilized tribes in Europe, every year till the last 70 years, a country that now makes up the European Union, one country or the other in the European Union had gone to war against another country in the European Union. So every year for the last, say, 100,000 years, but let's just say modern European civilization is, 3,000 years old. During that time, one country of the European Union had gone to war against another country in the European Union. Sometime during that time. And even after the forming of the European Union, there are countries in Europe that have actually gone to war against each other. So the European Union was formed after World War II. The first ideas started emerging when the leaders of modern Europe decided, look, this is ridiculous. We're neighbors. We live right next to each other. Right? We're neighbors. We live right next to each other. But we're not prosperous because all we do every couple of years is go to fight. just start a fight with each other. So one of the best ways to really not have war is to trade with each other. So if we are engaged in trade with each other, and as a result of that, if we start making more money, we have a major disincentive, and our people have a major disincentive to go to war with each other. So the whole thing started with, how do we stop war with each other? That was the first impetus for the European Union. The thing that came out of that was, well, how do we actually make ourselves prosperous? Because the more prosperous people are, the less they want to go to war, because they don't want to give up their lifestyle, right? So when you have a really nice house, really nice cars, good standard of living, you don't want to jeopardize any of that by going to war, because, it could all get destroyed. So the whole thing was, okay, how do we not go to war with each other? And the way to do that is to make ourselves more prosperous. And to do that, they came up with a grand plan, and the grand plan is actually truly working, even though there are a lot of hiccups. And the grand plan was a Europe without borders. So every country in the European Union is one where you can go from one country to another without borders. There's no customs, there's no taxes as you make those moves, and people across those countries can all live in each one of these countries and work in each of these countries. Now let me give you a sense of how that actually works, because a lot of people go, why is that a good thing? So I've been going to Europe now for at least 30 years. And when I used to first go to Europe, this was before the European Union had actually formed, even though it was in the process of being formed. To go from one country to another, I literally would be, so let's say I'm in a car and we're going from Germany to France. And to go from Germany to France, you would be in a car and you would, you're in Germany, you get to the French border, and the car would come to a complete stop because there's a border, there's customs officials and immigration officials. They would come check your passport. And you'd be in a line of 30 cars, and when you're in a line of 30 cars or 50 cars, sometimes 100 cars, you would be in a line of 100 cars and then slowly let one car through after they check all your documentation. Now imagine what's happening here. So if I'm in a line of 100 cars, I literally am in a border for 2 hours before I move from one country to another. So people think, well, maybe that's important for border security, and perhaps it is. But here's what's happening. During those 2 hours, my car is idling, right? I'm using gas up. I may not be using that much gas up, but I'm probably using maybe $1 of gas during that time. So that's not a lot of money for me. But now imagine 500 million people, or not all 500 million are traveling, but say 5 million people that day, all using $1 of gas. So that's $5 million that is not being used productively in the economy. Okay? Now you take that over 365 days, guess what's happening? That is that much money not being productively used. You're just idling gas. That's all you're doing. Now that's a simple example. Let me give you a bigger example. So 30 years ago, you would, if you're a fisherman, you would, fish in Italy or Greece. That fish would be stored in a container, and then, if you're in Italy or Greece, you get fresh fish. But if you're in Hungary or Poland, the landlocked countries of Europe, that fish has to come from someplace, right? So if that fish has to come from someplace, it gets put on a truck. That truck now carries the fish from, or it could be fish, it could be fresh vegetables, it could be anything. That truck now carries the fish or the fresh vegetables from Italy all the way to Hungary. Now, that truck is now at a border, the first country, for 3 or 4 hours, because there are so many trucks ahead of them, that's got to be checked. Then it goes to the next country, and it's again at a border for 3 or 4 hours. Then it goes to the next country, and by the time it gets to Hungary, it's gone through 6 countries, and instead of it taking 1 day to get from one place to another, it's literally taking them 4 days. That's 4 days of gas being used, that's 4 days of refrigeration, and you're not getting fresh food. But if you don't, and so guess what? So if there's 4 days of gas getting used and there's 4 days of refrigeration, all that is getting costed into the price of that fish, right? So when the fish finally gets to Hungary, it's 4 times the price of what it should be. So now a consumer is now spending 4 times that money to buy that fish. But if those borders are not there, the fish that is now $10 would be $2. Or would be 10, instead of 10 euros, would be 2 euros. What is the person going to do with the other 8 euros? Now you can use that money productively, and people are automatically becoming richer because they have more money to spend on things that are of value to them, as opposed to having to spend money on things just because of the border. That is all it was taking, and just getting rid of those made people wealthier. Does that make sense? Right? So the European Union was formed, one, with the idea that if we start trading with each other, if we have more money, if you and I are neighbors, and here's the other part. So let's say I'm from Hungary and you're from Poland and you're now my neighbor. I understand you're not a two-headed monster. You're just a person like me. So people are less likely to go to war with each other and fight with each other if they sort of get to know each other and realize there's really no real differences between people, even though they speak different languages. So that's the first part. The second is, as people get prosperous, they have more money to spend, they spend it on things that are important to them, and all these countries become richer. And over the last 50 years, we have found that to be true. There's been a dramatic increase in the lifestyle of Europeans, and they have gone, after World War II, from literally being impoverished to amongst the wealthiest countries in the world. And of course, some of the European countries, especially the northern European countries, are on a per capita basis richer than the United States is, right? So that was the background of the European Union. So now the question is, as students, why do you have to learn about the European Union? Like, why do I have to learn one more thing on top of everything I got to learn in college, right? Here's why. Everything that happens in the European Union sort of impacts you. And we are going to see that when we're in class there. But let me give you a quick example. So the European Union makes laws, and there are different parts of the European Union. There are different bodies in the European Union. But European Union legislative bodies make laws for Europe. And so when they make laws for Europe, those laws have implications for American companies. I'll give you an example, and just a very easy one. So Europe is very strict about environmental standards. They understand that, you know, climate change is real. It is happening right now. And if we do not do something about it now, in the long term, this is not going to be a habitable climate for at least, you know, it may be fine in our lifetime, but eventually it will not be. And so the question is, what do you do? Well, they have very strict emission standards. So your car can only emit so much, you know, pollutants. And so they're very strict emission standards. So here's what they have. They have these emission standards, and those emission standards are far more strict than what North American emission standards used to be. So in an American car, you could have more pollutants come out, but in Europe you couldn't. Well, here's what the European Union did. They said to Ford Motor Company, GM, all these American companies, but really to companies all around the world, if you're going to sell your car in Europe, you have to have these emission standards for your cars, not just in Europe, anywhere in the world. So we will not let you sell a car with these emission standards, even if your car is, let's say, is made in China and only sold in China. If you ever want to sell in Europe, that car is got to have that emission standard. If you are Ford and you say, you know, I'm not going to sell in Europe, fine, don't sell in Europe. But if you want to sell one single car in Europe, your North American cars have to have this emission standard. So now what they've done is they've fundamentally changed businesses everywhere by having them follow their rules. Same thing with Facebook. There's, you know, they were one of the drivers of Facebook privacy laws. They told Facebook, you want to have Facebook in Europe? These are some of these privacy standards you have to maintain. You can't just say, we're going to come and do this. You have to maintain those privacy standards, and if you don't, we won't let you use Facebook. You know, we won't let you have Facebook here as a business in Europe. So they are able to change things all over the world by having, yeah, and essentially they're saying is, do you really not want to follow this rule and not have, you know, not do business with 500 million people? You want to do business just in North America, that's fine, but that's only, you know, 350 million people. North America, well, including Mexico, 500 million people, it's 400. So if that's what you want to do, fine. But if you want the market of another 500 million people, this is what you have to do. So that's why the European Union becomes so important. So how are we going to study the European Union? So this is what we do. You have this brochure. So what I want you to do is, this booklet, I want you to turn to page 1, please. You guys don't have one. Here. Who else doesn't have a booklet? Okay, so everybody, I was telling you about Katie Norris. This is Katie Norris. She's an advisor in the Spear School. She's an advisor in the Spear School, and she will also be going with us. You have one? Anybody else need one? Okay, page 1. So let me take you through what we're trying to accomplish. The first one is to become familiar with the political, financial, and economic situations of countries of the European Union. So really, very broadly, we're going to learn about the European Union. Now, this class is not a skills class. So when you take a class, for instance, in accounting, managerial accounting, you actually learn a skill. Like, okay, here's what you do and how you apply it, right? This is what we refer to sort of as a broad geopolitical class. It's an awareness of the world, but it is not a very specific skill you're learning. Okay, it's an awareness of the world. It's very important, but it's not a very specific skill you're learning. To understand culture and business practices of the countries of the European Union, with special emphasis given to the current European economic crisis. And there's always something happening in the European Union. It changes from year to year. Sometimes it's something to do with migrants, sometimes to do with healthcare, sometimes to do with climate, something or the, because it's 28 countries and there's always something happening. Sometimes it is to do with people wanting to leave the European Union, but then there's a whole group of people who also want to enter the European Union. So that's what we're trying to do. Here's how you're graded. And the first thing is, for those of you who are worried and wondering, we do not have a single lecture. So this is what we do every morning. So we're leaving here on Friday. We get there on Saturday. Saturday, obviously, we by the time we get to the hotel and get to our, it's late in the afternoon, early in the evening. We do have classes beginning Sunday morning. And we're in class every morning from 9 till 11. Okay, so we're in class every morning from 9 till 11. And this is what we do. So I don't lecture. Every morning, you're in class sitting just like this, and our class is one of the conference rooms in our hotel. You're sitting just like this, and we start with the first person, and we go around the classroom, and we do what are called current events. And current events are basically, you are going to have to speak for a minute on anything that you want to related to Europe. Okay? So you have to give the entire class a current event. It's about a minute, but you give the class a current event, something related to Europe. Now, how do you prepare for that? Here's how you prepare. So if you are taking your iPad or your phone or your computer, in your news feeds, add European Union. And so you're constantly getting news about the European Union. And from now till then, what I would encourage you to do is, as you do that, you're just suddenly going to start seeing news about the European Union. But here's the other thing that's going to happen. You're probably seeing news about the European Union now, except you haven't been paying attention, so you really don't know what's going on. So you add European Union into your news feed, and you're going to start seeing things. Now, here's your current event. It could be something political. It could be something related to business. It could be something cultural. It could be about your favorite soccer team in Europe that made a big trade. So what we're going to do is, it could be any number of things. It could be something to do with food. It could be something to do with fashion. It could be something to do with music. It could be anything. And so what we do is that we talk about that particular current event. So after you do your current event, we'll talk a little bit about that event and why do we care about that? What does it matter? And when you do that, you'll find when 50 people, and there are 50 people in the class, when 50 people give a unique current event, you suddenly learn a lot about what's happening in Europe that day. And then next day, it repeats itself. And the day after, it repeats itself. Now, here's the thing about the current event. Once you do a current event, nobody in the class can say, oh, that was going to be my current event. So you have to have a unique current event, which means almost every day, you sort of have to have like 5 or 6 current events that you know about. Now, a current event could also be something like a conversation you had with somebody European the night before in a restaurant or a bar who says, this is what I think about this particular issue. So it could be where somebody says, okay, you had a conversation with somebody from Norway, here's what they think about Brexit, or somebody from England visiting Barcelona that you talk to, and they talk about, what's going on. So it could be any number of things. It just has to be something related to Europe. Okay, does somebody have a question about current events? If you're thinking, well, what about this? What about that? Anybody have a question? So the thing to remember is you have to have 5 or 6, know about 5 or 6 current events at any given time, because once, somebody else could take up your first 3 current events. Now, that said, you'd be surprised. Like, you go and you go, come on, that many people? Will I really have a unique current event? You'd be surprised. All these years, we'll have maybe 1 or 2 cases where somebody's taken your current event, but most times your current event ends up being a unique current event because people are drawn to different things that are of interest to them. And you'll have a lot of different things and a lot of bits and pieces of information that you're going to get hit with between now and when you're there, and even when you're there. So the first thing is current events. Your current events are worth 10 points per day. So if you don't have a current event, a unique current event, or for some reason you didn't come to class, you lose out on those points. We also have 3 company visits. Sometimes we do 4, but I'm trying to keep it to 3 because, well, we're just trying to keep it to 3. And the 3 company visits are, one is with the company that owns our hotel is called the Condes Hotel Group. They own several hotels in Barcelona, and they come and do a really cool presentation on hotel and tourism management in Spain. So they come and give us a sense of their strategy, the markets that they hit. So we are in their 4-star hotel, the Condes de Barcelona. Right across the street, they have a 5-star hotel called the Monument. And then a little away, a couple of miles away, they have another 4-star hotel. But they're these really unique boutique properties. They're not big chain hotels at all. And they have a very distinctive strategy. They take these old buildings, they have refurbed these buildings, and turn them into really ultra-modern, cool things. So when you look from outside, there are these old buildings. When you walk in, they're like, really spectacularly done. And so they come and talk about their marketing strategy. They talk about, how they redo their buildings, how they market their hotels all over the world, whether it's through Booking.com and other engines, whether it's Orbitz, et cetera, et cetera. But so they come and talk about basically broadly tourism in Spain, but the hotel industry and specifically their business. And it's very interesting. The second trip we go on is to a company called Freixenet. And Freixenet is the world's largest sparkling wine manufacturer. So they're a Spanish, and in Spain, the sparkling wine is called cava. Most of you probably know it as champagne, because if it comes from a very particular, so the method by which you make sparkling wine is the same, but sparkling wine can only be called champagne if it comes from the Champagne region of France. If it's not from that particular area, it can't be called champagne. So Italians typically call it Prosecco. The Spanish call it cava. Americans just call it American sparkling wine. But Freixenet is the world's largest sparkling wine manufacturer, and so their vineyards and their manufacturing facility, their winery is approximately an hour outside Barcelona. So we're going to take a big bus comes and picks us up. That's on Tuesday morning early, which is the 28th, May 28th. So we go there. They tell us, they show us how sparkling wine is made, but very interestingly, here's what they do. They actually talk to us about how they not only the winemaking part, but also how they market to clients all over the world, who their target audience is, and they have different sparkling wines that they target at different people. There's some that are aimed very specifically towards women. There are some that are aimed very specifically towards younger women. So they talk about, so it's basically a great marketing seminar that they do for us. So that's one of our trips. And the third one is a little bit more mundane. It's about finance and banking, and we have somebody from CaixaBank, which is one of Spain's largest banks, come and talk to us. So anyway, so those are our 3 trips, and again, you receive 10 points for every one of those. You have a quiz, and if you turn to the 10th page here, which is right after, the frequently asked questions and all, the 10th page is not numbered. The 10th and 11th page have 50 questions. Your quiz will be 20 of those 50 questions. Here's what you have to do. You have to go find the answers to those questions. And it's not that hard. All you have to do is basically start Googling, and the answers will be there. Make sure as you find an answer that it's not a dated answer. So it's like not something from 2014. Look for a brand new answer. Because some of these answers change over time, but by and large, they don't change. Your quiz is 2 weeks from today in this room. If the room changes, we'll let you know. You're going to be asked 20 of those 50 questions. It is closed notes. So you need to go find the questions, the answers to the questions, and then you need to know the answers to the 50 questions. But here's what the quiz does for you. So as soon as you start studying for the quiz, you get a really big sense of the European Union before you go. So when you go to Spain, you sort of don't go blind, not really knowing anything, what's going on, that sort of thing. So you really learn a lot about the European Union even before you get there. And even though right now you're going, I got to take a quiz, well, you'd have to take a quiz now or you'd have to take a quiz later. You're much better off getting it over with so you're not spending your time in Barcelona studying for a quiz. Because when you're there, trust me, you're not going to want to study for a quiz. So now, that said, I know there are some people who are not able to take the quiz in 2 weeks and because they have got something else going on. And so for them, I will do a makeup quiz. And in fact, I will do a makeup quiz for anybody one of those days. But the makeup quiz will be harder than the quiz you take, even though it's from exactly the same questions. And here's how it's harder. I'll tell you right now, for instance, here's how I can make the same quiz exactly harder. So here I might just ask how many countries make up the European Union. How many do? Because I just said it a little while ago. 28, right? Over there, all I have to do is ask, name every country that makes up the European Union, right? Now you're going to come up with 28 answers as opposed to just no 28. See the difference? So the same quiz can get, so for instance, I might ask here, okay, how many European countries, how many European Union countries do not use the euro as a currency? Does anybody know the answer to that by chance? It's 9. But over there, I might ask, what 9 countries don't use the currency? And now you got to know all the names of all the 9 countries, right? So the same quiz can become harder, but at the same time, what I'm telling you is, if you're not able to take it there, you will have the option of taking it. And here's the other part of it. Really, obviously, when you're taking the quiz, it's going to be after the class is over. So everybody else goes off to have fun, and you're stuck taking a quiz there. So, but at the same time, if that's it, that's it. Don't worry too much about it. It'll be fine. It won't be the end of the world. Okay. And then finally, you have a final paper. It's called a country report, and we'll talk more about that in Barcelona. That is due, and I think it's on July 21st, so it is due over a month after you come back, 6 weeks after you come back. And it's a paper you're going to write together with a group of other people. So it's a team paper. It's not on its own. Right? So it's a team paper that you will write, and you'll just email to me 6 weeks after you come back. You'll have plenty of time to do that. And we'll talk more about it then. So your quiz, your final paper, current events in your class, and attendance to the company visits. So those are the 4 things you measure. Any questions?
When can we, when's the soonest we can start gathering current events?
You can start gathering current events now. Yeah, absolutely. You know it's happening, so you might as well start gathering those. You can start writing those down, and it's interesting. People who are the best of friends won't show their current events to each other over there. They're like, oh, he's my best friend. I'm not showing him my current event. Tell me your name.
I'm Kylie.
Kylie. What? Is everybody Kylie here? How many Kylies do we have? Just raise your hand. I know there are 3 for sure. 1, 2. Are you 2 rooming with each other? Like 2 Kylies rooming with each other too.
So I just got back from Ireland over spring break, and so Brexit is a big thing right now.
Uh-huh.
So since I learned about that, is that current enough for doing?
Yeah. Oh yeah. When I say current, it doesn't mean it's like happening that day.
Okay.
It's happening now, and Brexit is happening now.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
But you'd be surprised how many people will have Brexit as a current event. Yeah. So here's the other thing that happens, like in class. I'll walk in and somebody will have their hand up. I'm like, yes? Like, I want to go first. Yeah. Everybody's fighting to go first in class. Okay, anybody have any questions about the class? All right, let's talk fun stuff, getting ready for Barcelona. Let me see if I've missed anything. So, for those of you who are interested, my bio is on page 4, but we're going to focus on page 3. So, I think most of us are leaving on May 24th But here's what I need you for those of you who are leaving earlier, not leaving with us. By the way, how many people are leaving on that flight with me from Charlotte to Barcelona? Just curious. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, how many people getting into Barcelona on the 25th, say between early in the morning and 11 o'clock? How many of you are getting there early in the morning and 11 o'clock? Raise your hand so I can see it. Like, put your hand straight up. Okay, 1, 2. What time are you getting in there?
Like 11:15.
From where? Miami. Okay, so it's an American flight. Okay. Who else is? Somebody else had a. Gabriella. What?
She gets in at 7:45 in the morning.
Is that a United flight? Where is that?
Coming from Washington. Washington.
What airline?
Oh, Denver, sorry.
So it's a United flight?
Yes.
All right. What? 11:15? From where? From Shannon? You're coming from Beijing?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you guys are leaving after and going home and then flying from Beijing?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. All right. It's a long trip. At least you get frequent flyer miles. Okay. So anybody getting to Barcelona before the 25th, like you're going to be there, do you guys know where you are staying or what you're doing? You do? Okay. Did you pick a hotel? Are you at a student hostel?
There's 4 of us staying in a hotel together.
Okay. All right. So if you haven't decided and you want to, send me an email. Right? So send me an email and I'll give you. So there are obviously a couple of different things you could do. You can obviously stay at a hotel, which is perfectly fine. But one of my recommendations is consider a student hostel. And here's why. First of all, they're very cheap. I mean, you can literally stay $20 a night. And these are very clean and nice places. The only thing is you're in a room, bunk bed, 3 or 4 other people. So it's like being in a dorm room, but they're very, very clean and they're very nice. But here is the interesting part about something like that. You truly will have a great time because you will meet young people like yourselves from all over the world who are traveling, right? And you'll have a great time in Barcelona, 2-3 days before, while you're there. So just consider that, and if you're interested, send me an email and I'll send you a couple that are very close to our hotel. So that morning when you check out, you can just walk over. So that's one thing. Anybody staying later or going anywhere else after Barcelona? Okay. So curious, where are you guys going?
Probably Madrid.
Okay. So you haven't bought your ticket yet? You haven't bought your ticket to Barcelona?
I'm buying it today.
You are buying it today, so you haven't bought your. And if you haven't, where are you going?
I'm gonna go to Ibiza and then to Athens.
Okay, so are you going to the Greece program as well? Okay, perfect. So, but if to go to Ibiza, you only have like 1 or 2 days between that and Athens. Is that what you're doing? Okay. Are you going to Athens from Ibiza, or are you going to? By the way, it's pronounced Ibiza, like with a lisp. There's a story, but I don't think it's true. Like apparently the story is the king of Barcelona had a lisp, so that's why it's Barcelona is actually pronounced Barcelona. And so that's the way he said everything, but I think it's just an urban legend. I don't think it's actually true, but that's when you hear people and you'll ask them why is it pronounced Barcelona and not Barcelona? I mean, it's pronounced Barcelona in English, but in Catalan it's Barcelona and it's Ibiza. They'll tell you that's what it is, but it just may be a made-up thing. So, okay, so you're returning from Athens on the way back. Okay. Where else are you going? Taylor, where are you going?
I'm going with Marissa.
Okay, and you're going to Athens as well? On Atlas's trip? Somebody else?
I'm going to Greece, which is Santorini, I think, and then I'm going to the London program afterwards.
So you're going to the Greece program and the London program? Or just going to Greece and the London program? Okay.
I'm going to Cyprus.
Okay. How did you pick Cyprus?
I'm doing a study abroad, like a 4-week course through the study abroad
Okay.
office.
And they have something in Cyprus? Okay.
I'm going to Santorini and then Athens and then London.
Okay, but are you going on the Greece program as well? Okay, so you're going to Santorini and Athens for the program. In between, you guys go to Mykonos too. I don't know if you know that or not. And then London. Do the London program as well, or just to London?
No, we have friends in London.
Okay.
And then what time do we need to be at the hotel on the 25th?
Okay. I'll just take you through the whole thing.
Okay.
Okay. So for those of you who are traveling with me, you know, we will be getting there about 11 o'clock. I think our flight lands at 11 o'clock. If you are there earlier than that, and say up to 11:15, when you get there, look for us, because all the flights come in exactly at the same place, and I think it's Terminal 1. There's a bus that comes to pick us up, so for those of you who are there around 11-ish or so, look for the big group of people from OSU. I mean, you're not going to miss us, because it's one landing area where, you know, we'll be scurrying around for our bags and stuff like that. We'll have your flight information, so I'll keep tabs to see if your flights are coming in on time or not, the ones that are coming in that day. So we'll have one bus that'll take us. It'll probably be noon by the time everybody gets their bags and we're able to leave. And we'll probably get to the hotel about 1 o'clock or so. Now, once you get to the hotel on the 25th, your room may or may not be ready, because what we do is we send your roommate assignments to the hotel, and so they will, you know, assign you to a particular room, but there's usually somebody there, obviously, in that room before, you know, who's checking out at noon, and then it takes hotels about an hour or so to get a room clean, so it may be anywhere from noon to 2 o'clock before you can get into your room, right? So, and typically check-in time at hotels is, so some people will get in, it'll be pure chance. You'll walk in and there'll be somebody whose room's cleared and they're already in, and you're sitting around for 2 hours. So it's just luck of the draw, and that's just the way it is. But by and large, almost everybody will be in the room by 2 o'clock. So that afternoon, it's your time off. You know, get cleaned up, showered. Try not to take a nap, because if you fall asleep, you are not going to be able, you'll just sleep through that evening. And if that happens, you'll probably wake up at 10 o'clock at night, and then you're not going to be able to go to bed all night. So even if you take a quick nap or something, you know, go out for a walk, do anything, but try not to go to sleep right then. Which is why the other reason is, the later you get into your room, it doesn't feel great then, it's actually better for you. So get showered, get cleaned up. That evening at 6 o'clock, we have on the rooftop of our hotel sort of a welcome party. And it's, you know, the Spanish, the way they eat is they eat little bits. They eat little things, hors d'oeuvres, called tapas, T-A-P-A-S. The first time we were having this class, you know, I was just talking, you know, fast, and I said, well, we're going to have a tapas party up on the rooftop. And then I said it again, and all the guys in the room are grinning, and all the moms are horrified. And then I suddenly realized what people are hearing. So the Spanish word for hors d'oeuvres is tapas, T-A-P-A-S. You'll see that everywhere. And typically, here's what Spaniards will do. On the way back from work, they'll stop at a bar, they'll get a drink, and they'll get a piece of tapas. So one hors d'oeuvre, you know, it's usually like an open-faced sandwich of some sort. They'll eat that, they'll hang out with their friends, and they'll go on home. Because most Spaniards eat dinner very, very late. You know, dinner is usually 9:30 to 10 o'clock at night. That's when they eat. Then, and so when you go to restaurants, the tapas bars are all open early, but the restaurants actually don't even open till 9 o'clock at night. A lot of restaurants, but it's perfectly okay because everything happens really, really late. Most work starts around 10 o'clock in the morning, so people go to work at 10 o'clock. So you know, the timetable is just shifted or shifted over. So my answer there is, if you are there at the hotel by, what time are you expected to reach the hotel?
Well, we get there on May 20th, so I just didn't know what time you wanted us at the hotel.
Okay, so here's what I would suggest to you. Don't get there too early because your room won't be ready, right? So I think if you get there about 2 o'clock or so, you're going to be fine. So,
what are we, 20 minutes from the hotel?
No, we're not far.
Send me your where you are and your address and your this thing, and I'll let you know how far you are. You'll be able to take the metro. I mean, I doubt 20 minutes is a big distance. Are you walking?
It wasn't 20 minutes. It was like 5 minutes. Yeah, it was close. It was in the same.
20 minutes is a big distance.
I'm not walking if it's 20 minutes long. Barcelona, I hate to bring it to you, but.
You're going to be walking so much every day, you're going to be wishing you were walking 20 minutes. Okay, so we're going to do that night, we're going to have that rooftop party from, say, about 6 to 7:30. And then after that, we will go for a walk. So what we'll do is we'll do a walking city tour. And it'll be something like 2 hours. But it'll be a big walking tour. I'm going to take you to the old quarters. We're going to have a great time. My goal is to at least keep you awake till 9:30 or 10 o'clock that night. And then you guys can go to bed because, I want to just tire you out the first night so you fall into a good sleep cycle. Not that you will sleep, but you fall into a good cycle that lets you sleep at night, not doesn't switch your rhythm around. Every morning we start class at 9 o'clock, we go till 11. So 9 to 11, 9 to 11, that's standard. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then Saturday we check out, and the bus to take you to the airport comes in very early on Saturday. So we're going to do that. So Sunday morning, Monday morning, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Tuesday morning, we're not going to have class because that's the day we go to Fresh and Egg. So that's going to overlap. It's going to be during class time. Okay, questions about class or meeting time? So let's talk about expectations about class. So here is the thing about Barcelona. I do want you to burn the candle at both ends. You're going to see a very unique culture, and it's a very, very fun but very late night culture. Restaurants open at 9 o'clock. I'm sure you will go out after that. Clubs, if you go to a club at midnight, you'll find there's nobody there. And then, you will have people, it starts getting crowded at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning. And oftentimes I will see people walking back to the hotel at 7 in the morning from being out all night. They go walk straight into breakfast and then come to class, which is perfectly okay with me because you're all adults and you're all over 18 years old, and that's the age for getting in and let's just say partying in Barcelona. The age is 18. But at the same time, just recognize this, it is class, and I do expect everybody there at 9 o'clock, right? So class is from 9 to 11, and I expect everybody there. And I expect everybody to be not sleeping in class, so keep that in mind. Okay, so please go to page 5 where it says Study Abroad and Travel Courses. Okay, first of all, does everybody have their passport? Not here. Do you have your passport? Okay? I want you to go check this. How many of you have had your passport for a while? Like you've already had it many years. If you've already had it for a long time, I do want you to go and make sure that your passport is valid for at least 6 months after the day you're coming back. Because if your passport is not valid for 6 months after, you will not be able to go to Barcelona. That is a requirement. Most European Union countries require your passport to be valid for at least 6 months after. So if you're coming back from Europe, London on whatever, July, whatever it is, it's got to be valid for 6 more months after that. A few years ago, we had a young lady very excited. Her first trip overseas, she got to the airport. They opened their passport and said, your passport expires in like 5 months and 11 days. She couldn't go. Like she got to the airport and they would not let her go. So that was it. She lost all her money, all her airfare. She's already bought her ticket and everything, right? She couldn't go. So keep that in mind. Make sure your passport is valid for at least 6 months after. If it is not, you need to go renew your passport right now because we're basically 6 weeks away, right? We are essentially 6 weeks away. It'll take you that time to do that. So make sure you do that. I keep a copy of the front 2 page of my passport in my photo vault. So make sure you have that. And keep a copy of your passport first 2 pages with your parents or somebody here. So in case you lose your passport, we're going to have to go to the American consulate in Barcelona and get you a new passport. And they'll ask you for proof of passport. So make sure you have a copy of your passport with you, whether it's an electronic copy or whether it's a paper copy. All right, so make sure you do that and take it with you. Now, it is a good idea to keep a paper copy because if you lose your passport and your phone, then you've lost both. So, also, there's that email, there's that website there, travel. Go to the State Department travel registration site and please register. Please go ahead and do that because in the event something happens to you and the State Department has to intervene, they will know where you are. Okay, so add in like you're going to Barcelona, Santorini, London, like your whole trip, put that in there. Okay, so we will be staying at the Hotel Condés de Barcelona, and you should put that into your phone. And here's why. You should put the name of the hotel, the address, and the phone number in your phone. And here's why you should. So let's say you're out late at night, and the metro has already closed, and you're trying to take a taxi back from wherever you are, and you say Hotel Condés de Barcelona in your best American accent, and the taxi driver has no clue what you're saying, you can just show them the address on your phone, right? So this is where I'm going. So put that in there. By the way, we also give those orange cards out, so keep those with you, and make sure you keep those with you because that has the address of the hotel. By the way, for those of you who came in late, here's what I want you to do. I want you to download WhatsApp on your phone, the chat phone messaging system called WhatsApp. How many of you have already done it? Is there anybody here who does not have WhatsApp? Do you know about WhatsApp? Okay, so you already have it. So if you already have it, by the way, my phone number is on that orange card. Send me a text through WhatsApp with just your name. And I'm going to add you to a chat room called Barcelona 2019. Katie, would you add this thing and send me a...
Absolutely. I was going to mention, I actually noticed in the front page that my phone number is incorrect in there. So I'll make sure to send it out so everybody has my correct number. Do you have an extra card?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, for those of you who came in late, Katie Norris is one of our advisors who goes on this trip. Beverly Morris, would you please stand up? Beverly Morris. Mrs. Morris is, thank you, the other advisor on this trip. And here's the other thing. So when the two of them ask you to do something, they're basically speaking for me, right? So if they say, we're going to go do this, we're going to do that, please understand that that is coming from me, and my expectation is that you are going to do that. So both, it's like the law firm. I'm a law firm of Norris and Morris. I can't. We planned this.
We did.
So our hotel is in the very best part of town. It is on Paseo de Gracia, which is like being on Fifth Avenue or on Madison Avenue in New York. You walk out, the energy is so incredible. It is a very cool hotel. You'll have an amazing time. Like you literally walk out. So you look across the Louis Vuitton flagship store, followed by the Gucci flagship store, followed by the Bulgari flagship store, followed by like one of the world's largest Zara stores, you know, next to the H&M store, on this side the Saint Laurent store. I mean, it is just like the strip is restaurants, bars, the greatest shopping. It is just phenomenal. But more than that, it's just the energy of the place. Like there are hundreds of people walking around. You know, music playing on the streets. It is just incredible energy. You will have a fantastic time. You do room with somebody else. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send the sheet around. If you know with whom you'd like to room, you and the other person write your names down next to each other's. So it'll just say, so everybody's in a double room. Some of these are already filled out. So these are people, if you don't know, don't worry about it. Don't write anything down if you don't know who you're going to room with. It's only if you know who you're rooming with. But don't worry about it if you don't know anybody, because you will get to know people today, and then you can fill it out at the end of the class time today. But if you don't worry about it. Like, you know, what I do is I sort of try and make a judgment of people who I think will get along with each other, and I just do that. And I do that based upon almost entirely your look. Like, if you look sloppy and the other person looks sloppy too, I just go, these two sloppy people will get along really well with each other because they're both going to keep the room messy. What you don't want is somebody who looks really neat being with somebody really sloppy, because that's how they irritate each other. So I'm going to just pass this around, and if you know who you want to room with, just write that down and give it to me. Okay, money. So the best way to buy things in Barcelona is using your credit card. Okay, you get the best exchange rates on your credit card. Do not exchange money in America and take it with you. You get horrible exchange rates when you do that. So my suggestion is take $100 with you and then use your debit card or your ATM card to get cash out in Barcelona. So let's say you're thinking, you know, so take $100 with you, have a couple of $100 in your account over here, and then when you get there, take cash out for you to use over there. But as much as you can, use your credit card. How many of you do not have a credit card and only plan to use a debit card? Only a debit card. Okay. So my first suggestion is also, if you can, please take one debit and one credit card if you can. I mean, you're going to have an ATM card to take cash out, which is also essentially an ATM card is a debit card. But if you can have a second credit card with you, in case you lose one, you still can use another one, right? And you could essentially lose one. Now, here's the thing to keep in mind. So when we go to, say, for instance, a restaurant in Barcelona, or let's say you go to a restaurant, there are 4 or 5 of you go to a restaurant one night, it is unusual for them, and let's say if your tab is absolutely even, they might be able to split it up. But let's say your tab is not absolutely even. So one of you just had a salad, and the other person had a pork that big, right? So yours is €3, and theirs is like 15 euros, and they're not going to say, we'll charge you 3, we'll charge you 2, we'll charge you 8, we'll charge you 15. At best, they will split it up, but in some cases, they'll just say, we just do one credit card transaction. And in that case, one of you will probably have to pay, and everybody else will have to give that person money in cash, or all of you will have to just pay cash over there, so it all equals the amount of the bill. So you always need some cash, even though when you go shopping you don't need cash. If you go buy something you don't, but or if you're just buying for yourself, you walk into a sandwich place or something, that's different. But you always need some cash, and that's why you need to have cash. So the other thing, yes?
Do they allow any American money? Because in Ireland, they don't take American
No,
money.
there's no, like we would not take any euros here, right? If I took euros and went to the strip and said, can I get a hamburger? Yeah, so they will not take any American money because this is not America. Or that is not America, so yes. So you have to have euros with you, but that's why credit cards are fine. Now, here's the thing about debit cards. Debit cards are very, very easy to commit fraud against. And I don't know how it's done, but it is very, very easy to commit fraud. And for instance, if you lose your debit card, or if somebody's able to figure out a way and draw cash out against your bank, you have no recourse. With a credit card, let's say there's some fraud happens, you can call the credit card company and say, somebody charged $100, a couple $100, and they'll reverse the charges. With debit card, it's actual cash coming out of your bank account, and you will lose the money. So that's one of the reasons I tell people, be wary about debit cards. I obviously have a debit card, but I only use it to take cash out, and I don't use it for transactions other than that. So I take money out of my ATM machine that I need, but I don't even carry it with me because I have the cash with me, and I have my credit card with me. And I'll give you a story. So this is about 3 or 4 years ago. There was a guy called Eric Loya. And Eric Loya was so excited about going to Barcelona. In fact, he was so excited about going to Barcelona back then we did it over spring break, that he spent 6 months working on his abs. He's like, I'm going to Barcelona, my abs got to look good. So he spent 6 months working on his abs. And I'm sure he had good abs by the time he got there, because every day, I would see him, he'd be doing crunches in the classroom, crunch everywhere, he was doing crunches. So as we had this conversation, and I told everybody, look, debit cards are very, very easy for fraudulent transactions. Be careful about debit cards when you give somebody a debit card. So when you're in a restaurant, you give somebody a debit card, who knows what happens if it's gone for a little bit. It's gone. First night, we get there, and Eric goes into a club or someplace. This is the very first night. He has a great time. Next morning, we are in our class. Sunday morning, we're in class. He comes in, and his face has just dropped down. And I said, what's going on, Eric? He goes, Dr. Basu, I went to this club last night. I'm like, oh, I'm glad. Okay, very fun. He goes, yes. I ran into these 2 really attractive women. They told me they were Russian models. And by the way, just so you know, there will be people who will tell you they're Russian models. And 2 things to keep in mind is, they're probably not Russian, and they're definitely not models. They are something, but they are not models. Just a general warning to all the gentlemen here. So these 2 Russian models, started chatting Eric up, and then of course one thing led to another, and Eric bought him drinks. And then at the end of the night, he asked the bartender how much it was, and it wasn't too bad. It was like, he thought he was going to go there and get 2 drinks and be done for $10, and I think it was like 110 euros or something. He ended up spending on the 2 Russian models, and so he paid for the thing. He gave him a debit card. He got it back. Next morning, he looks it up. It's just his accounts. They're $2,000 or $3,000, which was the entire tuition for the next semester that was gone. It was just not in there anymore. So you can imagine what a great trip he had after that, right? So be sure, like if you have a debit card, it's never out of your sight. Like don't give it to somebody to go to run a charge or something. And in Europe, they actually bring the machine to you and they charge it in front of you and give it right back. And make sure you always get the slip, sign it, so you know exactly what happened. Okay? And by the way, they'll ask you, do you want to pay in dollars or do you want to pay in euros, your credit card? And always say euros because you get a better exchange rate. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. I think unless you are going crazy shopping, $600 is plenty of money. And here's why. You get your breakfast is paid for, you got a couple other dinners paid for, you have a Metro card so you don't have to pay for transportation anywhere. Unless you are going shopping, $600 is plenty of spending money. I don't think you need more than that for the 7 days that you're going to be there. Anybody have questions about finances?
Can we use a Discover card?
Yeah, by and large, Discover, it's not as common as Visa and MasterCard, obviously.
It's just Discover.
Yeah, I know, but it's just not as common. Like not every place might take it, but by and large, I think you're going to be fine. Okay. Do you have the card with you?
Yeah.
Here, let me take a look.
Hold your card.
Yeah.
First of all, you don't give your card to anybody you don't know. Yeah. Fine. So if it says, if you look back there, it'll tell you what the listing system is. For instance, if it says Pulse, or if it says a couple other things, Yeah, this will be fine. Okay, packing. Did we send you an email that says packing advice for gentlemen and packing advice for ladies? Have you sent you this? Okay, I'm going to send those out to you this week. And I am dead serious when I say this. You can actually pack for that entire week just taking 1 carry-on. And I'm not talking just about the guys. You're like, there's no way. Okay, so we'll talk about this. I will actually send you a list where you can literally do this, but taking 1 carry-on. And it's very well thought out. We've sort of honed this over the years, and it's essentially by keeping you in the same sort of color family. So you'll see me do this, like essentially every day, I just wear grays and blues. And by doing that, you can keep rotating things around and you're going to be able to do that. So, but obviously it's not something you have to follow. You can take like as big a suitcase as you want, but just remember, you're the one, pulling that suitcase and carting that suitcase everywhere. So it is going to be a lot more work for you, but you really could do this. Now, here are some of the keys. Your shoe is the single most important thing you're taking with you because we walk so much. It is not uncommon for you to walk anywhere from 6 to 10 miles every day. So after class is done, so much of what we do is we're walking around. So your shoes are very important, and your socks are very important because you want very thick, padded, like smart wool kind of socks that cushion you because you don't want to get a blister. And I'll tell you my Andreas Warner blister story. If that doesn't scare you, nothing else will. Okay? So there was a guy called Andreas Warner. He went there about, 5-7 years ago with us. He got there 2 or 3 days before, and he had boots. So he was a boots guy. So he had boots on, and he was going to wear boots throughout. And of course, I told everybody about make sure you take your best walking shoes. Your sneakers are the best thing for you to wear all day with nice padded socks, because you don't want a blister, because if you get a blister, it'll just make your whole trip miserable. And by the way, just so you know, as soon as you get a blister, There are pharmacies everywhere. Walk in, get Band-Aid. In fact, if you can get a Band-Aid from here, carry some with you and just strap yourself. Cover that blister up completely. You get these blister packs that you can actually put on your blister. But blisters can turn really, really bad. And you know, you're just not going to be able to walk at all if you get a blister. Make sure you do that. So Andreas Werner wanted to take some photographs because he was a photography, you know, he liked photography. He took his camera. He got there, said 3 days before. He spent those 3 days walking all over the city. Barcelona has fantastic architecture, so he took these great pictures. And then we got there on, you know, Saturday. I see him that night at that tapas party, and I can tell he's got a little limp. So I said, Andreas, what's going on? You have a limp. And I'm very tuned to the limp because I know what happens. So he goes, I got a little blister. I said, okay, Andreas, we talked about it. You know, and there's a pharmacy right across our hotel. So go to the pharmacy, get a blister thing, put it on it. But you know, so it doesn't get worse. He said, okay, I'm going to do that tonight. I'm like, great. So I see him in class every morning, but I really don't see him because he's off. You know, he's off on his own after that doing stuff. And then the last day when we're about to leave, the night of the party. So we have a going away party the night before. He's kind of coming in, and he literally is like walking like that. So I said, Andreas, what's going on? He says, well, you know, that blister, I think, got a little worse. I said, did you not get that thing we talked about? He goes, you know, he's too cool. He doesn't want to do it. You know. So I said, and his limp is bad enough that I said, can I take a look at that? And so he puts his legs up, he puts his jeans up, and there are literally green lines running up his leg. Like literally green line, like, you know, streaks running up his leg. And I look at that, I said, okay, let's go to the pharmacy right now. So we go to the pharmacy. The pharmacist looks at it and she runs back and like horrified. I mean, like imagine the pharmacist runs in. She goes, gets the English-speaking pharmacist out. He looks at it and he says, you have to go to a doctor, not a doctor, a hospital right now. So we're going to this final dinner we have. So I give Andreas, like we get the name of the hospital. The thing is, Andreas, get in a taxi, go to the hospital right now. They go to the hospital. The doctor sees it and the doctor says, they talk about it. They go get the English-speaking doctor. He comes in. Here's what happens. The doctor tells him, you are 1 day away from your leg being amputated. Like one more day. If you had to wait it till tomorrow, we'd have to take your leg out. He has to stay in the hospital because they put the IV and stuff in there, and they put the, you know, they have to put his antibiotics intravenously in there. He had to stay 1 more week after that thing was over for that. And had he been here, it probably would have been a $50,000 medical bill, right? Now, because it was there and it's socialized medicine, he didn't have to pay anything. But forget that part. Imagine if you're planning to go to Santorini or London or Madrid or whatever, that's what's happening to you if that blister goes bad. Okay. So keep that in mind. Obviously, that's an extreme story. But literally, he had to stay back. So he stayed back. He was in the hospital for a week, running a temperature. I mean, he had fever, sweats, the whole thing. So keep that in mind. So here's the other thing. So your most important thing are your walking shoes. You know, you'll need flip-flops or something like that just to be around the hotel and all. But other than that, take just one pair of dress shoes. You really don't want to take more than that, and here's why. You walk out of that hotel, there are like 100 shoe shops around. I promise you, you will. Doesn't matter what your level of restraint, you are buying shoes there. and maybe not all the guys, but everybody else is. Like everybody who's not a guy is probably going to buy a pair of shoes there. Yeah. So, and you can. Who here says they're not buying a single pair of shoes? I'm just curious. Is there anybody who has that kind of result says I am not? Well, Mrs. Morris, you don't count. I'm talking about a student. Is there anybody who thinks they're not buying one pair? Like, you can actually say that. Okay, so there you go. So you already know you're buying one pair. Who here thinks you're only buying one pair and no more? Well, not the guys. You think you're only buying one pair?
I think so.
Okay, I'm telling you right now you're buying 2 pairs. We'll see if I'm right or not. Like right now I'm telling you, you're buying 2 pairs.
Okay, I'll remember.
Yeah. If you don't, I'll give you 10 euros.
Okay. Warren, play some bets.
It's not a bet. I'd be shocked if you don't. You'd be like, do I take 10 euros? Or these are these really cool pair of shoes that I wanted. You're not going to be able to help it.
Does our hotel have laundry? Do you know? Since I'm traveling from place to place.
No, it doesn't, but I'll tell you what to do.
Okay.
So, where are we? Packing. So make sure your shoes, and just take one pair of dress shoes, but other than your shoes. So you can wear the same pair of dress shoes, and when we have guests or speakers come to our class, and then when we have our final party, the going away party, you can wear the same pair of dress shoes. The only time, because in the past we used to go in March, and so I always would suggest that I take a sports coat or something because it was cooler. The only time you really need to dress nicely, and by that mean dress, is what I would like everybody to do is dress nicely when we know we have a speaker coming. I don't want them to think these people from Oklahoma State University, they already don't have the best impression of Oklahoma sometimes. So I want them to have a good impression of Oklahoma and of Oklahoma State University, most importantly. So I want people to dress nicely, and by that, but you don't have to go over the top or anything. Just dress nicely, dress pants, nice shirt, that's fine. And then our last night when we have our party, if you want to take a party dress and wear that is perfectly okay because we have a great time. It's a great multiple course paired wine menu. We have a fabulous time. We take a lot of pictures, so I think you would enjoy doing that. You don't have to worry about the shoes, taking them with you to match your dress, because you will buy the shoe there. I can tell you right now.
So on the business visits, do they need to dress nicely?
Just sort of business casual. So like nice slacks for a gentleman and a shirt is perfectly fine. And we have some pictures on what it is. Nice slacks. If we go someplace where there's a lot of walking involved, what I'll probably have you do is wear your sneakers so you don't this thing, and then switch to your pumps or your flats when you get there. So don't worry too much about it. But just be nicely dressed, like no hoodies, no like you'll see me. I essentially dress like this all the time. It's just like a different combination of the same thing, and that's more than enough for me. So you can be one level below, and that's perfectly okay. Let's talk about safety. So here's where I want to talk about a couple of different things. When you are out late at night, and if you're out at our club, please do not leave anybody behind. So let's say 4 or 5 of you are gone, and 4 of you are ready to come back, and one of you says, "Oh, I just met this really cute Italian prince." First of all, he's not Italian, and second, he's not a prince. Okay, he's just the flip side of the Russian model. Okay, so please do not leave anybody behind. And here's the other thing I would recommend, please do not take this as a sexist message. But ladies, if somebody is buying you a drink and you do not know that person, do not accept the drink, because it is so easy for somebody to slip you ecstasy in a club. It is so easy, and trust me, you are not going to like it if like 2 nights later you wake up in the Middle East and you didn't know how you got there. Okay? So please do not, if somebody buys you a drink, don't accept a drink from somebody you don't know. Don't leave any of your friends behind. And here's the other thing. When you're out and about, especially coming back at night, always make sure you are at least in pairs, if not more. And again, this is just general precaution. I would tell you this if we were going to be in Tulsa, downtown Tulsa late at night. So don't worry. The crime rate in Barcelona is less than any of the 2 big cities in Oklahoma, right? So parents, don't worry about this. But the other part of it is, just use caution. So when you're coming back from someplace and there are 4 or 5 of you, absolutely no problem. Not even anything that you have to worry about. Don't take jewelry with you that is flashy. So like a couple of years ago, we had a young lady who wore her mom's Rolex and her David Yurman ring. And of course, it's going to happen to you when you do that you're going to lose it, and she did. But don't take that sort of stuff with you. Just stay low-key so that you don't attract attention. But in the middle of the night, when you're coming back, don't walk through a dark alleyway. I mean, you might see, hey, we could just cross through here. We'd be right at our hotel. Let's just come around, take your regular street. So make sure you do that. Don't wear clothes that obviously identify you as like American. Okay? Like don't wear the one that has this massive American flag that says, if you're a terrorist, shoot me here. Right? So don't wear that shirt that you have. Okay. One of the things I'm going to, again, Barcelona is very, very safe. We've never had anything ever happen to anybody, not just in Barcelona, but on any of our study abroad programs. But when you're crossing streets, make sure there's not a car coming fast at you, okay? Because, I mean, you know, what happens is, because there are so many of you, the light turns green, the first group just walks through, and the second group just starts following them. They don't look to see like whether the car's coming or not. That is the one I worry more about. I'm not worried about terrorists. I'm not worried about you getting mugged at night. I'm not worried about you, now that we've talked about ecstasy, you know, getting a drink from somebody else. I worry more like people just stepping off the curb and getting hit by a car. So always make sure you're looking for the car, you know, that car or truck or whatever, like a vehicle coming fast, you know, because cars are moving fast over there. So just make sure you do that. ATM cards. So one of the things that happens all over the world in big cities is you will see standalone ATM machines, and a lot of those are fraudulent ATM machines. They're actually not cash machines. What happens is somebody needs money, they take their ATM or their debit card out, they put their money in this cash machine, and then the machine just sucks your card. And you go, oh, my card is gone. Now that happens from time to time anywhere. But here's the thing, if you see a standalone ATM machine, they're actually sometimes not machines. So when you punch the number, there's a camera right above that sees what number you punched, and it takes your card, and then the crooks they have your card and they have your number. And so they will go draw money out of your card. So the way you know, the way to be safe is you only take money out of ATM machines that are built into the side of a wall and part of a bank. So you'll see like Citibank or Kasha Bank, or you'll see, I mean, it's clearly a bank. You can see it's a bank inside. It's clearly bank, and the machine is actually built into the side of a wall. So it's not like a crook put it there and they'll come back later and take the stuff out. It is clearly a part of a bank. And don't worry about it. There's cash machines everywhere, and there's one right outside our hotel, like 1 block away. So I'll show you where I go get money, and you'll be fine. So, but keep that in mind. Don't put your card into a machine that's a standalone, like, you know, a machine just like in a building like this standing out there. Don't go there. Your wallets, gentlemen, don't put them in your back pocket. Pickpockets there are like the best in the world, or amongst the best in the world, and it's so easy to take your money out. So here are the things that you don't carry with you. Never carry your passport with you, like when you're out and about there. When you get there, put your passport in your safe in the hotel room, and don't take it out. So all you need to do is keep your credit card and some cash with you, and your driver's ID. Because sometimes, you know, when you use your credit card, they want to see an ID to make sure it is your credit card. And it's a good thing that they do, because that's how, you know, nobody else can use your credit card. So you have your credit card, your driver's license, and some cash with you. And that's all you carry with you at all times. Don't carry your passport. And keep your money in your front pocket. It's a lot harder to get money out of, or if you're wearing a jacket in here, like or like, you know, whatever, like if you're wearing a jacket, if it's got a zipper on it, somewhere like that. But pickpockets there are incredibly good. So what will happen is people will have stuff in their backpack, and they don't have to open the backpack to get your stuff out. What they do is, so like here, get the backpack, right? So let me show you what's going on here. So you've got your backpack here, and there's stuff in there. They've got a very incredibly sharp knife. They'll just slit this. You know, so that you've got this backpack, you're like, I'm secure. They'll just slit this here, all the stuff will just come out. I mean, literally, they're like, they'll just catch it and they'll walk away, and you won't even know it because you're in a crowd or in a train or something. They're very, very good at this, and so make sure you keep that in mind. Okay, as we're talking about safety, let me talk about public intoxication. So the drinking age in Barcelona for alcohol is 18. So for anybody here less than 18. Is there anybody under 18? Okay. So everybody here is of drinking age, but here's something you have to keep in mind. So while the drinking age is 18, and so it's perfectly legal, obviously, for you to drink there. public intoxication is against the law. So if you have had so much to drink that you're throwing up someplace, the police can arrest you for that. All right, and I'll give you, here's what happened last year. It's 2 in the morning, and there's a bunch of, it actually may have been, was it your guys? Did they tell you the story? Okay, so there is 4 gentlemen on this trip. They had too much to drink, and here's what happened. So they're in their room, and if you soil your room, they're going to charge you $250. So if you throw up in your room and dirty your room, right, they will charge you $250. So, and of course, these guys knew that, so one of them ran out and he hurled over the balcony. Okay, he just hurled over the balcony. It just so happens we're in this location, which is like prime location in Barcelona, and there are cops everywhere because we are sort of in the best part of Barcelona, and they want to make sure tourists are safe. He went over and he hurled over the balcony, and the cops are over there, that far away, and he hurls from the 4th floor. Cops walk right into the hotel, and they're at the front desk. And it just so happens, because we have a relationship with the hotel, and we've been there 9 years in a row, and the cop says, this is the room, this is where it happened from. Typically, they would just take the cops right up, and they would have arrested those 2 gentlemen and young men and taken them away. And then when that happens, you're on your own, right? There's nothing I can do about it. I mean, you just committed a crime. I can at best call the American embassy. There's nothing I can do about this because public intoxication is against the law. But it just so happened, instead of taking the police up there, these guys just called me. So I'm like in the middle of the night, and I'm trying to understand what he's saying because I'm fast asleep. The front desk calls me, something about police and this, that, and the other, and I said, let me go down and see what's going on because I'm thinking somebody got hurt, which is worse. So I go down, and there are 2 policemen there, and the front desk guy, and he's explaining what's going on, and the police turn to me, and he says, here's what happened. 2 of your students threw up from that floor, and they're here to arrest them. And it just so happened my brain just clicked right then in the middle of sleep, because I don't know how many of you know this, I teach a negotiations class. And I say, yes, I know exactly who you're talking about. They're not drunk, they just had some bad fish. And of course, if you're sick, that's public intoxication is against the law, but just being sick is not against the law, right? So I was just able to basically tell them they threw up because they were sick. They ate something really bad, they had food poisoning, not because of this. And so you could tell the policemen are looking at me and going, okay, we can't, they're not happy because they wanted to arrest this thing, but now you can't arrest somebody for being sick. But I told my class, if this happens again, I'm not telling them anything. They're taking you in, and then you can deal with it. So keep that in mind when you were there. When you are checking, if you are checking your bags in, put one of those TSA locks on your bag, because what you don't want, either going over or coming over, you don't want to inadvertently become a drug mule, right? You do not want somebody going, oh, there's a bag going, we'll slip our drugs in there. You're not going to know, you're going to feel cool walking in, and then, so make sure you put a TSA lock on your bag, because you don't want some drug smuggler inadvertently putting something in your bag and carrying it over. Okay, your weather is going to be beautiful. That's all I have to say. Let's talk about your appliances. You will have a hair dryer. You will not have how many of you need a straight iron? You need a straight iron? Oh, you were, okay. So if you need a straight iron, so my wife actually has a European, straight iron she bought there that she takes back to Europe every year. If some of you are going multiple places, you might think about, okay, if you're going to go there and Athens after that in London, you may just want to buy a straight iron there. But if you don't want to, that's perfectly okay. Here's what you need. You need an adapter and a converter. Okay, so you need an adapter and a converter. The adapter just lets you use your 2-prong phone, iPad, whatever, and lets you plug it in over there. And that's all it does. It's just a different plug, so you can plug it in there. A converter actually converts electric current from 110 volts to 220 volts, and you need to have a converter, otherwise you're going to fry your straight iron or whatever product you're using or whatever appliance you're using. One time we were in Bilbao, Spain, and my wife plugged her, this was her first trip, or maybe not her first trip, plugged her straight iron into the thing and literally blew out the whole hotel. Like everything, there's a dark smell, the entire hotel goes dark, and then so the hotel people are going knocking at each door trying to figure out where it happened because they have to go come to in the fuse. So we hid under the bed. It was a long time ago. But we hid under the bed so that they wouldn't catch us, you know. And not everybody's as mature as you guys. Okay, you will have internet access at the hotel. Your cell phone, I have AT&T, and AT&T basically you can use anywhere. So I'm going to get a data package, and I think the data package is, it's like you can get a data package for a whole month, and I think it's like $60 for 1 gigabit, right? One gigabyte, and which is usually enough for everybody. Because here's why: when you're in your hotel, you should only use your Wi-Fi, right? So go into the airplane mode and only use Wi-Fi when you're in your hotel, and then when you're out and about and you need the map or something, then you can use your data package. Go talk to, how many of you have AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile? How many of you have like cut rate phone? Like it's really, really cheap, like you have $10 a month.
Well, I know Verizon has this plan. It's like $10 a day.
Okay, yeah, it's similar, yeah. Go talk to them, so if that's what you want to do. But you can use Wi-Fi. I mean, you don't have to have a data package, right? As long as you're okay using Wi-Fi in the hotel, you're fine. It's only when you're out and about you may need data otherwise. Okay. If you take medication, make sure you take your prescription with you. And here's why. There are medications that are perfectly legal in North America or America that are not legal elsewhere. And so if you take a medication with you that is not legal in Europe, you're now carrying a contraband drug. Right? So if you have, the best way to do it is, if you have a medication, most medications are legal most places, but if you have like a specialty medication that is sort of unique, if it's any kind of a narcotic, you should take your prescription with you. How many of you wear contact lenses? If you wear contact lenses, make sure you take your glasses with you, because you can get grimy being in a city all the time. So make sure you take extra pair of contact lenses, and make sure you take your glasses with you. Does anybody have a major allergy, like nuts or gluten? I mean, something that can really choke you, kind of allergy, not like it just makes you feel unwell. Okay, so anybody carry an EpiPen? They have to?
Yeah, I do.
You do? You carry it at all times with you? Mm-hmm. You have it with you right now?
No. I'm not eating.
Okay. Do you know how to give it to yourself?
Yes.
So you know as soon as you start feeling badly, okay, I got to give it myself. Okay. So you know what to do with that EpiPen?
Yes.
Do I need to know what to do with the EpiPen? Okay. Okay, let's talk about your food. So you get a very, very nice and very heavy breakfast. So every morning, make sure you eat, and make sure you eat a lot, because we're out and about a lot. And at lunchtime, we might just stop at a little shop to get a sandwich or something of that sort. So we're out and about a lot, so make sure you eat a lot and eat very full. And don't worry about like, oh, am I eating too much? Because we walk so much. Don't be surprised if some of you lose 8 to 10 pounds in just that 1 week. I mean, like, there are people, and I'm serious, there will be people, we walk so much, there are people who have lost, like, in a week, 10 pounds. You know? I know, but it's not a weight loss class. I mean, so don't get excited about it. But if you're really skinny, like how little you are, you should eat a lot, because you will, you will lose weight. Because if you're like an ectomorph body, you will like drop weight very, very quickly, and some people have a hard time keeping that on, right? So keeping weight on. So make sure you eat well. You also, it obviously makes your lunch a lot less expensive when you do that. Now here's the one thing though. So it is a buffet, and last year we had people who would go in at 7 o'clock, eat their first meal, after class running and try and get their second meal. That is just not done. Because here's the way hotels, so you can't keep going back all day just to buffet up. Here's the way hotels work. So when you first walk in, they check your number, right? They check you which class, which room you are in, and they mark you off. And then, let's say by 8 o'clock, they know that 70% of the hotel is done. So then now they're making food only for the remaining 30%, right? Because they know you've already eaten. So then if you go back, you've thrown their whole system off. So please, when you go, don't go back multiple times. Just go when you go, but eat well when you do that. And more importantly, drink a lot of water. You will get dehydrated there because you're out late, you're walking around. So make sure and there's a little shop right outside the hotel that you can go grab water and stuff and stack your room with water and make sure you drink a lot of water. Okay, any questions, anybody? Who's got their roommate assignment sheet? Jose, am I forgetting something that I should have spoken about?
No. Can I say a few words?
Please, of course. Come on in. Come on up.
And then for you. Guys, you know Dr. Basu, he has done this trip for many years. Consider yourself lucky because he has run this program since 1992. I know him since 2006, and he was one of the most popular professors. He got an award last week. Every other year he gets an award. He cannot get them every year, but he gets them every other year. And companies, they pay thousands of dollars to have him for a few hours at their company. And you're paying a couple $1,000s to have him for a week. So consider yourself lucky.
So you're saying they should tip me, right?
Here is the tip talk now. No, it's so you're not only going to a great destination, you're going to, with a great professor. I made a mistake a couple months ago, and I said that his trip was one of the most popular trips. He said, no, it is the most popular trip.
Based purely on the number of people who go. Yes. That's what we're talking about.
It is really popular, and for a reason. He's a great professor. He cares about students. He prepares for every single session. He has everything down. And he's an expert in Barcelona and European Union. So I just wanted to say that. Behave, take care of yourselves. Dr. Basu already covered those things. But this is an Oklahoma State University program. It's a class, and you will be ambassadors of your university, your soon-to-be alma mater, and also of wherever your country from, China, the U.S., and you're also representing your families. So whatever you do is a reflection of your culture. So I'm from Mexico, and the image I have of Americans was spring breakers. And I know that's not an accurate image of spring breakers, but that's how we see teenagers or college students. So be smart, be a good representative of your country, and be open. Have conversations with locals. They all have an opinion about your country. They might get into talks about politics, about the president, about issues. In Catalonia, Barcelona, they're going through a lot of changes. So be open, read a lot, and have fun. And again, just whenever you're hearing Dr. Basu, remember executives pay thousands of dollars per hour just to hear him.
And there should people pay more, but yeah. Thanks, Jose. Thank you. Okay, so before everybody leaves, we're not done yet. Parents, please don't worry. We'll take good care of them. I know you guys are worried, and especially, and you know, things can happen, and things do happen randomly, but as long as your offspring or protege is like even moderately responsible, they're going to be fine. And here's the thing I keep telling all of you, drink a lot of water, because I know what else you're going to be doing, so you should be drinking a lot of water. Because it'll keep you healthy that way. All right, before you go say hello to, whether it's an adult or another person that you haven't said hello to yet. All right? So go say hello to somebody else.